In 3, 2, 1, go ahead.
Morning, welcome to Thurston County Board of County Commissioners. Commissioners check-in for Thursday, February 11th. Date's wrong on the agenda. This is scheduled from 10 to 11:30. Will be, are we still having YouTube issue, or is this
No,
being live?
we're live streaming right now. We fixed
so
that.
Resolve the issue. Okay. So you can follow along on the county's YouTube channel or by conference call at 360-252-9020, pin 1234. And present, my name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. We have Commissioner Carolina Mejia, County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and Commissioner Edwards will be joining us, I presume?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Okay, so he'll just be in shortly. The two items we don't usually hit are reports on external boards and commissions, as well as any additional commissioner items. We don't necessarily take them in that particular order. Typically, we've just kind of gone back and forth with reports and issues to discuss that we don't have time for in our regular agenda setting and board meetings. So I'll ask Commissioner Mejia if she has a report or question or issue for discussion.
Yes, so in terms of my reports on my committees, I mean, with the Regional Housing Council, we are passing what our objectives are for 2021. There's a huge, I know there's a huge desire to push definitely diversity and equity, so I'm very excited about that. And for committees, I think that's one of the biggest things, and we have another meeting today. So, but
Before you leave that one, I don't know if it's come up since you probably only had one meeting or so, and I don't know if Ramiro, maybe, I don't know if you've talked with Commissioner Mejia about the 1406 money and kind of what happened last year and what the plan was supposed to be and kind of where we're going with that. I don't know. That's kind of a big topic on my mind that I haven't heard much about lately. I'm just curious.
I briefly touched base with, when we went through the Regional Housing Council, $14 will continue to be part of that conversation. And in fact, I'm just trying to review proposed amendments to the language on the 1406 the RHC may be considering this coming week at the next meeting. And just as a matter of a context for the viewing public, the $1406 is a apportionment of the sales tax that was given to local jurisdictions to address permanent housing or transitional housing. It really doesn't. It's not intended to address homelessness in a way of strategies, but it's really more providing a permanent housing. So as you may recall, the Board of County Commissioners took an action back in 2019 to take advantage of this. It's just a matter of clarification. This is not an additional taxation. It was just the current taxes that goes to the state legislature took aside a portion of that and give to local jurisdictions to start giving a financial avenue to start addressing permanent housing and low-income housing. So the intent of the board at that time when you passed the resolution was to have a regional conversation because also the cities of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater was given an allocation of $1406. So, and that came in the midst of forming the Regional Housing Council, and that continued to be the objective of having that regional perspective. The $1406 have a sunset date of 20 years since inception. And also one of the great avenues of this allows you for bonding, meaning you can probably account for the stream of revenue for the next 20 years, and that will be a ways to pay interest in principle for a potential bond. So the Regional Housing Council is looking for a project, and he was having those conversations as to what that project will be. But also knowing that we have some revenue in 2024, the $14.06. The members of the Regional Housing Council agree that perhaps each jurisdiction can take an action as to how the 2020 allocation can be decided by local jurisdictions. The result of that, as you may recall, early in the year, you took the 2020 allocations for the $14.06 and put into the Community Action Council to continue to provide rental assistance and utility assistance to those individuals in need as a result of the pandemic. I believe that was a strategic by the board to build a bridge until the additional federal help was coming. And now that is coming. And in fact, next week, you will be considered taking an action to allocate additional funding to the Community Action Council to continue the support for rental assistance and utility assistance to the citizens in need. So at this point, the conversation of the Regional Housing Council is how we can probably find a project that can probably maximize the investment at the region level and address the key elements of affordable housing or perhaps transitional housing needs in the county. That was my long overview of your question, Commissioner. You're muted.
I was just hoping we were still on track with that. I hadn't heard anything to the contrary, but in 2020 kind of interrupted where we were headed. Right. So I wanted Commissioner Mejia to hear all that too.
Yeah, I believe that is still the intent, and Commissioner Mejia will be part of that conversation, obviously.
Okay, so sticking with other boards, you sounded like you were headed to a different board
yeah,
there.
So I got to do some exciting things last week that I'm really excited to report on. One of the first ones is that I went to FJC to see how their mural is progressing along, and I went with retired Judge Hirsch, Pam Hartman-Beyer, who's the court administrator, and we were also joined by Nisqually tribe members. And we had a very fruitful conversation about how the county and the tribes can work together. I am trying to set up another meeting with them and see where we can go. I know they definitely want to bring their art to the county and show a little bit more of their stories and their history. And Hansford shared a lot of wonderful things and a lot of wonderful stories about his family with us while we were there. And I'm just very excited to keep building on that relationship. And by the way, the mural is very beautiful. If you haven't gone and looked at it, the artist who's doing the mural she's fantastic. And so the way they have it divided between land and sea, and I know they have a lot of great ideas, and we got a lot of great feedback. So I'm excited to see where they go with that. Another exciting thing I got to be a part of was the Child Care Action Council, and they invited several organizations from Mason, Grace Harbor, and Thurston. And it was very eye-opening to see some of the data that they were able to bring up. One of them that I found interesting is compared sometimes to Grace Harbor and Mason, we're not very far up. The percentage of demand met by the nearby supply, Grace Harbor's at 41%, Mason at 40%, and Thurston's at 38%. But when you compare the percentage of families living in child care deserts by county, Grace Harbor is at 29%, Mason at 47%, and Thurston is at 36%. So we are seeing that, you know, there's this issue that's going on here in Thurston. I'm really excited to keep the discussions going on how we can really keep partnering and really open up childcare centers and see how we can have equity when it comes to childcare across the board. And then you were, Chair, you were requesting about a bill that I got asked to testify in at the last meeting. And I wasn't, you kind of caught me off guard, but it was House Bill 1310. And that is the House bill that it's concerning permissible uses of force by law enforcement and correctional officers. And the feedback I got from that, from a couple of law enforcement officers, is that they always welcome more training, and especially when it comes to connect and empower people. But there's already 2 cases that determine their use of force, and those are Graham v. Connor and also Tennessee v. Garner.
So they felt this bill was unnecessary or went too far, or?
I couldn't hear your question. I'm sorry.
I was saying they're arguing that the bill went too far or was redundant because of the court cases?
Yes, yes. So it would limit them even more, is what they said, especially if there was, this bill would prevent lethal force if someone ran away from law enforcement, and they said this would completely tie their hands at apprehension if lethal force was the only option to subdue the person.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Edwards is online, and Commissioner, you can jump in at any point because I don't see I can't see your hand obviously, so you're welcome to just pipe up. But I'm going to turn to you on any board reports, or I guess we're going around on board reports and stuff, and then we'll go around again on any random commissioner items.
Okay. I don't know. I'll just do a quick follow up on what Commissioner Mejia mentioned about that restrictions on law enforcement. I'm not going to get in the middle of it, obviously, but I know our sheriff is paying attention to what's going on. And I have actually lived through this type of restriction that was put in place when I first started in law enforcement. The jurisdiction had felt that, for an example, any type of a pursuit for any reason was looked at as being too dangerous to the community, I guess, which it is. It's pretty darn dangerous. So they had come out with a policy that said no law enforcement officer could go more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit at any time. And so what happened, that community almost went into complete chaos within the first month. And then that was revoked because of it. And what they found was that soon as the bad guy figures out that there's no accountability and no apprehension, because, you know, different ones would say, well, get a license number or that kind of thing. But that never works when you finally get to court. So I've actually lived through these overreactions, I guess I'll call them. And they don't work out very well. So we might have to go through it again in our community, but we don't want to tie the hands of law enforcement. In my estimation, we need to give them more tools and better training. is the better way to look at that. So I'll just make that comment on Commissioner Mejia's interaction there, which I'm glad that she's participating in. So that's it on that issue.
Okay. Do you have any other board reports you want to make?
Not anything that actually is any kind of earth shattering, not even worth really talking about. I will say I mentioned that this morning about the cell tower coming online. I just think that, you know, we have to be able to be in a position where we can, especially our young people, can access the whole technical learning process. So that's going to be a big piece of that. And I know I didn't check on until a little later because of a conflict, but Commissioner Mejia is going to be, you know, talking to the workforce type activity out at the Elm School District, and she's going to be great for a role model for all the, you know, especially young women that are looking towards advancement. So I'm looking forward to that interaction with her and with Cheryl on that. I don't know, did that come up in this morning's meeting?
It did not.
Yeah. Okay. Just wondering about that because I think that's going to be a big plus for our community and for what Cheryl's doing. You guys will be able to have a discussion about that when you meet with her individually, it sounds like.
Yes, I'm hoping so. And thank you, Commissioner Edwards.
Okay. Well, I'll report on two boards. Two things. One was apparently there was a situation in Florida where somebody hacked into a wastewater system and tried to poison or a water system of some kind, tried to increase a dangerous chemical to a point where it would have killed everybody. And one of the operators was able to see that and override it, but it raised questions, you know, from our board as to is lot vulnerable to anything like that? And so we had a presentation from staff about all the multiple, like what we do, what external controls we have, and then what are the safety measures in place. And the conclusion is that we're not really vulnerable to anything like that. It's really smaller systems that might not have the kind of security controls, but can obviously, if it's a small water system, it could obviously still affect public health. So it's something to be mindful of for smaller systems. And then a series of videos have been created. Something that Lot has wanted to do for a really long time, never got around to being able to do it, but the pandemic has allowed them to create a 15-minute kind of virtual tour of the plant and the process, the treatment process, and then some spin-off videos, some of which are just kind of pieces of the longer video, and some of them are separate standalones. But it's really interesting. We watched the 15-minute, and you can check it out on the website. I would encourage any elected official to watch it to understand how our wastewater treatment plant works. And it's a really well done video by a group called Twisted Social or something like that. Kind of a funny name, but did a really nice job on it. The other committee I wanted to report on was the Legislative Steering Committee for WASAC, and two bills that I don't recall the board having talked about, but they wanted us to just be aware of. Is one of them's probably not going anywhere, but I wanted people to be aware of it. It's 1362, and it's basically, apparently it was a surprise that it dropped, but it's the property tax flexibility that would allow the 1% property tax cap to go up to 3% based on inflation and population growth. Apparently it's not going to get a hearing unless it gets some Republican support. It has none right now. And the WASAC was asking Republican county commissioners to call their representatives and let them know that that this would be important to counties, whatever your political persuasion, to see if they could get any Republican legislators to allow it to have a hearing. So it's probably not going anywhere, but it was talked about because the WASAC wanted to keep it on everybody's radar. So, they were happy to see it, frankly. So it gave us a talking point so that, we're setting the stage. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's next year, but that was an important one for the Legislative Steering Committee. The second one is 1410, and this eliminates penalties or interest on property tax, late property tax payments, which WASAC strongly opposes, because the proponent of this has titled it kind of sneakily as protecting taxpayers from home foreclosure. But really what it'll do is allow developers and bigger entities to game the system. And there's already distinct examples of this happening. Folks who can make more money with that capital, loaning themselves money for projects, can make more money than the penalties that are required. They just pay their property taxes late, and it hits special purpose districts hard. So WASAC is wanting the counties to take a strong position against 1410. So those are my two board related reports. And unless there's questions about that, let's go around for any just commissioner items that commissioners may want to discuss or bring up. I'll start with Commissioner Mejia.
Let me think on it. I'll pass the baton on to Commissioner Edwards.
It's just an opportunity. Commissioner Edwards.
Yeah, could you give me that again? We cut out there for just a second. Tell me that again.
Saying, now we're just on commissioner items. That's kind of it for board reports. Yeah,
okay. Well, I guess the whole open government thing, I'm public access, all that, but I see that I think we're kind of headed in the right direction on the whole thing. And we've got additional upcoming meetings, but that was kind of my topic of concern that I was going to talk about, but I think we're headed in the right direction on it all. It looks like our county manager's got it headed in the right direction. That's the best way I'll put it right now.
I agree. And since you brought that up, I think this is one of these thing in the shower or whatever, where it was like, I remembered that the only thing I thought about was, could we spell in the section on special meetings, could we spell out or can ask be very explicit about what is a special meeting? Because I asked that question. And so the fact that I asked it means that it wasn't crystal clear from what was in front of me on the page. So like when I said, so is a special meeting just if it's a different place or a different outside the time or outside the location? Just spelling that out so there's no ambiguity about the regular meeting is well defined, I think. And then flipping that around when it gets to special meeting section, which was the next piece, having sort of an explicit definition, like a special meeting would be a meeting outside the normal meeting place or outside the county seat or outside the hours or outside the hours of blah blah blah. That was just a thought I had. Maybe write that down, Ramiro, to ask Elizabeth if she could consider just nailing that down, because that's obviously been a big point of problem for this. Anyway.
Well,
I agree with you 100%. That will make a big difference once we get it all. So there's no question about what we're doing. And then we incorporate into that the information that becomes available to the public to review if they choose to, almost kind of like what went on the other day with our crisis, our emergency declaration was, you can see where when people are interested in a topic and they have knowledge about how they can participate, they join in. So I think it's just a good example.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I was curious. The board had,
related to that topic, I believe tomorrow we're going to get additional information related to whether Thurston County, as part of the West region, can continue to be in phase 2. I believe the numbers will support that. So as a result of it, I'm working with the clerk of the board, Amy, to open room 280 and 152 for in-person public testimony on your next board meeting. So we'll go back to, obviously within the capacity requirements that has been given by the Department of Health, but that is my intent. And again, I'm optimistic the numbers will continue to support Thurston County and the West region to be in continuing phase 2 of the reopening plan. And again, as a result, we'll open room 280 for in-person public testimony. In addition to, we'll continue to exercise the Zoom meetings as well as the conference call access. So it will be a 3-pronged approach.
Good, thank you.
First item on my list was the public testimony we received, might have been Tuesday, I'm losing track of days, about the bathroom at Chambers on the trails. And I wasn't sure where we're at on that. Are all bathroom, we talked about that a lot last spring and we hadn't heard much about it. Are we still in a situation where all bathrooms on all trails are closed because of COVID or?
No, I recall the public testimony was based off if obviously we need to provide maintenance to the bathrooms, and I believe the citizen experienced the bathroom were closed when they were having a closed for maintenance. So he suggested that if the bathrooms are going to be closed beyond the 2 hours for maintenance, to have a porta potty. So I don't believe the bathrooms are closed. No, the bathrooms are open. It's just, I think he encountered that particular instance in which the bathrooms were closed due to cleaning and maintenance. And individuals didn't have a way to relieve themselves, and he found that perhaps others have been in that situation, and he found some evidence of that. I'm just trying to talk high level on this one.
I guess, could I jump in there? Maybe we could just have Romero, if you could just check in with Public Works on that.
That's going to be that was my task. Yeah.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I was gonna, and I have it on my list, a kind of a related issue to talk with Public Works. I have a meeting, I think, with Jennifer next week. No, it might be in 2 weeks, but sometime this month. This has come from more than one citizen who is wondering about places, especially in the rural areas where the trails cross the road. And usually the road gets priority and people have to stop. And then there was a state law that passed that said bicyclists could treat stop signs as yield signs. So if nobody was coming, they could go. But these citizens are advocating for stopping traffic, especially where there's more trail traffic sometimes than road traffic. But more looking at and evaluating more areas where it might be appropriate to stop traffic where there's a trail crossing. So I'm just throwing that out there in case the board is adamantly opposed to that or adamantly in support of that. I've had 2 or 3 citizens advocate for this. And so I was going to discuss with Jennifer what would be required procedurally if the board was interested. And if it seemed reasonable, I was going to bring it to the board. But since we're on that topic today, I just thought I'd throw it out there. And if anybody had any thoughts, Carolina, go ahead.
Could it be maybe, I mean, kind of like the pedestrian right-of-ways? Could something like that be installed? That's basically what it makes me think of, like when someone's crossing, the lights go off and you have to stop.
Are you thinking like a crosswalk kind of a thing? Is that what you're thinking?
So may I?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my previous job and provide a perspective on this. This is no new request, and it's always that the balance of risk, right? It is intended as to why the vehicles have the right-of-way on the road is truly related to safety. Because when we have a stop sign on the road in the middle of a crossing, it provides a false sense of security for the trail users just to cross. And that is really the risky approach. Similar to a pedestrian crossing, you know, in some instances that provides a false sense of security for the pedestrian to cross the roadway. So there's always that balance. Whether we can explore with public works as to how we can probably have that a balance is about how much risk we can probably go through the process of changing the signing. And just because we put a stop sign on a trail crossing, that doesn't mean the vehicles are going to stop. Especially in a thoroughfare, we have many vehicles coming crossing the trail, and we have many of those in the county. So, and that is, you know, even in my previous life, in my previous jobs, trails has always been that part of the conversation. Can the trails have the right of way when cross public roadways? I mean, we can signalize all as much as we want, but for me, and even the past experience is providing a false sense of security for the trail users. All of a sudden they're going to stop and just going to cross the road without stopping or warning. So this is just my perspective.
Well, looking at, so maybe kind of narrowing down a little bit, looking at one of the communications I have on this, the person is saying, many intersections are site limited due to curves, brush, trees, etc., and many new electric and hybrid vehicles are hard to hear, especially if coasting, and that's going to get worse as we convert more to electric vehicles. So, you know, maybe it's like looking at all trail crossings and focusing on the ones that have site limitations, because that would be a situation where it would be an extra obstacle for the trail user to be able to. I mean, that might be a situation where you err on the side of the stopping traffic versus the other ones where what you're saying might take precedent. I don't know. It might be a way to kind of narrow it down to particularly problematic trail crossings. But
yeah, but by no means I'm not suggesting not to explore the possibilities. Just give you my professional point of view based on my previous life.
Commissioner Edwards, you had something?
Yes. I guess following up on what the county manager is bringing up, it's about liability, and to me, it would increase confusion if we had that in some places and not in other places. And I think it would open the county up to more liability issues as the community becomes more confused. So I know there's a move afoot to prioritize bicycle and foot traffic over vehicle traffic. And I think that's probably coming somewhere down the line. I just don't think that we're there yet. But your point about electric vehicles and such, that's all, you know, it's true. They're really quiet. I just don't think we're there yet. It won't hurt to look at it, I guess, but with the numbers and such, because, you know, we've got the ability to put solar warning signs, I guess, if you will, that can flash, and they can be solar powered. So it isn't like we have to put power into all these places. But short of that, I don't think I'd be in favor of giving the pedestrian the right of way the same as we have where we have crosswalks in town. I think that could become a bit disruptive and confusing and probably cause unforeseen problems. Is just the way I'm seeing it initially with an initial blush. Okay. So that's it on that topic.
Commissioner Mejia, you have something?
Oh, no, I'm just listening to more experienced voices than my own on this topic.
Well, on any topic, that was the only couple things I had on written down on my list to bring up. So, Mr. Edwards,
okay.
anything else?
I believe we all got a letter from Jan Tibetan about kind of laying out his experiences. And I know we're working towards a solution, but I think it's important that we let the community know that our hands are kind of tied on this issue. And I can tell you, you can't find a more patient person and a more reasonable person than Jan Tibetan and his process of trying to deal with his family enterprise there, I guess is the best way to put it, because he wants to have his family all living near them as him and his wife age. So, but it's something I think he's always got a pretty good view on things, and I don't know that we can address it, but he knows that it's out of our hands, but I wonder how many other people do. So I don't know how we might address asking for that patience from the community in some fashion or another, because it does seem like, boy, oftentimes it's a long-running situation to correct things when government is involved in trying to solve a particular problem. And to that effect, I mentioned earlier with Cheryl about the cell tower. I mean, coming up, that's finally coming into play. Singletree Estates was a location that had a community SOAR that was going on for almost 20 years. And I know I tried to prioritize that when I first got in office in 17. And now we've just come to a solution on that, it sounds like. But many, many years go by, it seems like, before we're able to fix community situations like that. And I don't know, I'll give you a brief on the Singletree Estates issue up there if you want. I don't know, Ty, you probably know about it, but I don't know if Carolina does.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir.
Would you allow me to frame the conversation just for the benefit of the viewing public as to what you stated related to Mr. Tibetan? You know,
Sure.
Perhaps
sure.
The public doesn't, connect the dots as to what the issue was.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sir.
For the benefit of the viewing public, Mr. Tibetan has been obviously an advocate for the Habitat Conservation Plan. In the Habitat Conservation Plan is a ways as to how we can allow development without going through the individual mitigation requirements as a result of protecting the endangered species, the pocket gopher. So the current process that we have, the interim process, absent getting to the point of having an HCP, is a three-way prong approach for any citizen. One will be avoidance. Obviously, avoiding having an impact on the habitat of the pocket gopher. The second is wait until the county has a habitat conservation plan, and we're in the process of getting that. We're optimistic to have that by the end of this year. The third option was individual citizen can submit their own habitat conservation plan that addresses the individual impacts to that particular property. So Mr. Tibetan has gone through this process twice, and I believe he's going through the process the third time to allow and build a home in his property. I believe he has many acres, and he wants to subdivide that to leave a legacy to his kids. So as you stated, Commissioner, was Mr. Tibetan has been, I mean, you're right. I mean, somebody who has the incredible patience just to go through a federal process is just admirable from my point of view. And he provides a good perspective as to his own experiences going through this very complex habitat conservation plan process. So, and that's what probably just going to frame the conversation that you stated, just for the benefit of the public, that is related to the habitat conservation plan. And you're right, at this point, in a way, the county's hands are tied as to how we can provide a more direct benefit to the citizens whomever wants to build in the county. But I'm optimistic as well that hopefully we can be there by the end of this year. Did that help?
Yes. Yeah,
You're
yes.
going to mention something about Singletree Estates.
Okay. Well, I can mention, Romero, that was a good, clear explanation of what was going on there on the habitat problem. Anyway, Singletree Estates was a neighborhood up in on Clear Lake, a very, very nice development, nice homes and whatnot. And for some reason, one party had become, I don't know, upset. I don't know what, I guess I'll never know the reason. Maybe the community won't either. But she let her residence fall into disrepair. I believe there was a fire there at some point. And that was like 20 years ago, and never did anything to clean it up, but continued to pay property taxes on it. And it became a problem for kids that were going down there to catch the bus and such things. And, young people were in there smoking and doing whatever else young people do. And it was just a blight on that particular community. And it actually took 20 years to get through that whole process of bringing that citizen into the court system to gain some type of a compliance. And last week, the court actually ordered the owner of that property to do certain things, and failure to do those things then gave the county the authority to at least do what needed to be done in the name of public safety and charge the cost to the property owner, I believe, including if we had to sell the property to recoup that cost. So anyway, it just seems like oftentimes the process takes forever for some citizens, and how they can remain that patient for so long and not end up taking the law into their own hands, almost like a vigilante thing, is beyond me, when you worry about, the adverse effect it might have on the community. So anyway, just it took our planning folks and the prosecuting attorney and the judicial system, and through the COVID and the whole thing, they finally got it put together. Finally. So that's it on that.
Yep, go ahead, Romero. Sorry.
So as a matter of clarification on related to the this particular issue that Commissioner Eggers raised, yes, we have gone through the process in terms of code compliance, and the courts allow for an abatement. And the abatement is to require the property owner to clean the property. But as Justin clarified, the county does not have the right to sell that property. That was not included as part of the court system decision. So as a good first step, it requires the property owner to clean the property through an abatement. But the county is not in the position to take ownership or surplus that property. Just a matter of clarification.
Okay, I'm sure you had it right.
Robin, Romero, do you guys have any topics to bring to the board?
Commissioner.
I was going to bring something more.
Okay.
I have a really good relationship with the Agricultural Committee. I try to go to their meetings whenever possible. And then one of the things I think that is high on their list right now and that they've been struggling with is the agricultural structures. And you know, the advisory committee and CPED and the WSU extensions, they had a really good conversation about that. And, you know, they're looking to increase the size of currently the agricultural buildings. I think right now a certain size is permit exempt, but they want to increase that size. So I know that was just a topic that was that it's been of great concern to them.
Could I jump in?
On that, to that effect. Or I got a letter to that effect.
Yeah. Could I get to jump in there? Could I, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. I never know. I feel like I'm interrupting things, you know, but.
No, that's fine.
Anyway, one of the examples that they used was surrounding jurisdictions. So, I mean, that really makes sense. And here we are always trying to encourage the continuation of ag activities rather than development, for an example. And I think that anytime we can make life easier for the ag folks to continue their ag activity, it's beneficial to all concerned. So I think the ag committee, like Commissioner Mejia said, is concerned about it. And I think their concern matches what we're trying to accomplish anyway. So why wouldn't we do our best to accommodate their wishes to make their progress in their business? So I'll just let it go at that. That's kind of where I'm at. So if Commissioner Mejia wants to make some kind of a motion that somebody put something on.
No. If I may.
No, I know. I'm not saying
those matters doesn't require a simple motion.
Yes.
I think it is all about a process. With all the respect, Commissioner, you will be
Yes, sir.
you will have a conversation on the development docket that is coming for your consideration, and that is the opportunity where you can bring any additions to change any parts of the development code docket. So that will be the right opportunity, and where you can probably engage your seat mates to include this item on the upcoming docket, and then gets approval, and then staff can start working through the public process, and then bring a proposal to you. So just want to put a little bit of side rails on that. Thank you.
Okay, I respect those side rails, sir, and I'm glad you're there to keep us in the lane. But I just want to make sure that my seatmate knows I'm on board with doing something to solve this particular problem, and I probably used the wrong terminology in expressing that. Okay?
Yep, we hear you. Good, thank you.
I do have one other just real quick issue.
Yeah.
I continue to feel that this COVID virus pandemic that we're dealing with is not getting proper attention to the public to deal with this situation. And I think I'm maybe not articulating this quite as well as I could, but I think overall wellness and making sure that people keep their health, you know, wearing masks, washing, all that stuff's important, but so is keeping your resistance up. And your resistance is kept up through a proper diet, through possibly supplements, adequate sleep, all those things that we kind of take for granted that we all seem to know seem to help people so that they do not get sick. And it can apply to so many other things, you know, whether it's the regular flu or the cold or you know, anything else having to do with wellness. And I wish we would talk about that more. I know I got a response back because I had asked our doctor about a product called COVID or called ivermectin that apparently had some benefit in dealing with COVID. Well, she got back to me with that, and there's actually been some work done at the CDC. They're not recommending anything, but they do recognize now it's part of a regimented treatment in certain places, including here in the United States, I guess, if you come down with it and you go to the hospital. So, and I'm not using that particular one product as an example, or I am using it just as an example for anything that we might try to do to keep our community healthier. That's all. I mean, like we tell people don't smoke, so we put ordinances in place. You can't smoke in the playground and everything. But I do think overall wellness, and I'm not suggesting I know the answer on how to present that, but I think it's worth further discussion on how we might be able to inform the public that, hey, this, you're going to get your vaccination, but you might not get it until August or something. And in the meantime, it is very important that you stay healthy and do the best you can. And I did about six months ago or so in our letter to the county employees, I did focus my article on that wellness thing and have asking them to become more aware of their wellness and of their loved ones' wellness, because that's the only way we're going to, that's not the only way. That's one way we can help keep our community safe, is promoting wellness. So that's just food for thought.
That was a great public service announcement.
Yeah.
Commissioner Mejia
Well-
has the response to that.
Well, no, I just kind of wanted to two things. First off, I guess this, we're still writing a letter to the governor's office and requesting more vaccines. Is that correct? I
Yeah.
think we touched on this on Tuesday, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't lose my train of thought.
Drafting the letter, yeah.
Okay. And is that going to the governor or the Department of Health?
I believe the direction was to the governor.
To the governor?
Yeah.
Okay. And then second, I guess I'll do a public service announcement as well in regards to vaccines. There's been, we've been made aware of like several scams asking for money to receive vaccines. And, for an appointment. And, these scams like this, I think, take advantage of people who are desperate, frustrated. And, I think, we should put something out there. I put something out on my Facebook page notifying people of this, that we're not asking for money to request an appointment, but I don't know if is there something that we can do to make sure it gets out there to people. I know jury scams, I guess, have stopped by and they've passed on to the vaccination scams. So just making my seatmates aware and asking if there's anything that we can communicate out to the public, letting them know.
Yeah. We can probably work with Megan. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that, and that is concerning. So I'd be supportive of any messaging that we could develop along those lines. It'd be short and sweet, but letting people know we are not, you're not requesting, there's no connection there.
Yeah, and in fact, the vaccines are free, and it's free by the federal government. There might be a little charge by the outfits who provides or gives those vaccines, but any type of clinic the county organizes is free, and we'll make sure that is stated. Good point.
I guess maybe a follow-up on that is when you say it's free, so Commissioner Mejia is referring to some scam things that are coming up. So if somebody's asking you for money to get on our list to get a shot or something like that, I think that's kind of crucial to get that message out.
Yeah, we'll drop something. Yeah.
Or any list. I believe that our state insurance commissioner has issued guidance that the vaccine is free no matter where you get it.
Oh, so that probably will cross the gap then. That's good.
But getting the public made aware, I think, is where Commissioner Mejia is coming from, that we want to do our part to make darn sure that the scam artists have a hard time getting in the pocketbook of potentially vulnerable citizens that are just desperate to get, say, a vaccine shot.
Okay. If there's nothing further, we can adjourn. Anybody have a last item? No.
Watch out for the snowstorm. Did you guys get a brief? Did you get a last minute brief from the county manager on that?
Do you like to hear about my weather forecast?
Well, at the last minute, to me, the news media always is trying to embellish on what's coming next so that you'll watch the next broadcast, and consequently then you get to see some advertisement. So it's all about money. I like to hear the truth from government officials as much as I possibly can. So, and we want them to be aware. So if there's anything new, like, there's a little snow coming down. It seemed like Kurt gave us a pretty good briefing yesterday in our meeting, but maybe more people are watching this. So I thought maybe you could just give kind of what your last minute, here's the snow and here's what we're thinking and here's what we're planning for.
So I'm gonna put my green screen in the back. So
your weather report thing back there. Okay.
So we're certainly tracking, and this I think is gonna be a 3-punch storm. That's what I'm hearing. The first one is gonna be concentrated on the South Sound. That includes the Olympia area in Thurston County. And we already seen the snowflakes are falling right now, and it's going to be all the way until tomorrow morning. It could be at range between 1 and 3 inches. That's the last that I've heard. And then the next storm comes overnight on Friday, and that will take us all the way into Saturday. And that's the most significant storm that will affect the entire region. And that has a potential accumulation, I believe, between 1 and 4 or 5 inches. The difference between the two snows, I believe, is the one we're seeing right now is a little drier because of the temperatures that we have, and the one tomorrow may be a little more wet, which is heavier, which is going to make a little more treacherous traveling all the way into Saturday. And the third, and that is still out there because the weather is transitioning in terms of temperatures, is Sunday, overnight on Sunday. And that at this point, what I've read is maybe a mix of rain and snow. So every time that we have a transition between snow and rain, then freezing is part of that, which makes it a little more complicated. So we're watching. And also Public Works as well as Fleet has moved into a 24-hour operations just to make sure that we continue to respond. We're de-icing the roads and we're ready to plow as we move along. And the fleet, which is under the leadership of Robin, is already prepared to mount those snow plows with equipment and also provide assistance if some of those equipments break. So we're ready, we'll continue to respond, and we'll see what happens. Did that help?
Thank you. Yep, that's good.
So this is a good opportunity for yet another public service announcement to sign up for the Thurston County alert messages. I know that I received them both by email and text, and it had the current information about the storm watch and storm warnings.
Yeah.
So sign up for those.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and,
Okay,
and as a public information officer, just remind me that please follow Thurston County on our social media. That will be Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we'll continue to post all the different alerts that we have and keep the public up to date. So following us, please follow us.
all right, thank you very much. With that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.